There is a border in the world that almost no one crosses from the safe side to the dangerous side. It runs along the Yalu River in Northeast Asia, and on one side is China, imperfect, surveilled, authoritarian in its own ways, but a place where people eat, work, and walk outside without fear of execution. On the other side is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Every year, a small number of people slip out of North Korea. They cross frozen rivers at night, bribe guards, pass through the hands of brokers, travel for months through China and Southeast Asia and Thailand before reaching South Korea, where they are debriefed, resettled, and finally begin the long work of becoming someone new. No one goes back. To go back is to hand yourself to a state that has already decided what to do with you. The sentence for illegal border crossing in North Korea is political prison camp. The sentence for making it to South Korea and returning is considered treason. No rational calculation ends with going back. In 2016, a man from North Korea escaped across the Yalu River into China. He made it. He survived the crossings, the checkpoints, the months of hiding. He reached freedom. And then he went back. This is the story of Kim Kang-woo, a man who looked at the most closed border on Earth, having already crossed it once in the right direction and stepped across it again the wrong way. Not because he had to, because he could not leave his mother behind. To understand why a man would do what Kim Kang-woo did, you have to understand what North Korea does to the people inside it. Not just what it takes from them, food, information, freedom of movement, but what it installs in their place. The North Korean state has operated since its founding under Kim Il-sung in 1948 on a principle of total enclosure. Information does not move freely. People do not move freely. The outside world is not merely unavailable, it is systematically presented as enemy territory. South Koreans live as slaves under American imperialists. China is a neighbor, grudgingly tolerated. The rest of the world barely exists. Within that enclosure, the state assigns each citizen a place. Your songbun, your inherited class status, based on the political loyalty of your parents and grandparents, determines where you live, what school you attend, what jobs are available to you, whether your family eats. It is not a system you can argue with or appeal. It is simply the structure of the world. Kim Kang-woo grew up in this world. His father was dead. His mother, widowed, kept them together in the way that ordinary North Koreans keep families together, through whatever quiet exchange of goods, informal labor, or market trading the state permits and doesn't look too closely at. The 1990s famine, which killed between 240,000 and 3.5 million people by different estimates, had shattered the old certainties. The state could no longer feed everyone. The markets, technically illegal, then tolerated, then formalized, became the real economy for millions of families. In that economy, a widow and her son found a way to survive. Kim Kang-woo knew the arithmetic of survival, what things cost, what you could trade, who you could trust, and how carefully you had to manage what you said and where you looked. He would need all of that knowledge on the night he finally decided to leave. The Yalu River forms most of the border between North Korea and China. At its narrowest stretches, it is barely wide enough to feel like a proper barrier. But width is not what makes a border. Guards are what make a border. Watchtowers, spotlights, shoot-to-kill orders, and the knowledge that even if you make it across, China will send you back. Those are what make a border. More than 76% of North Korean defectors who make it to South Korea come from North Hamgyong and Ryonggang provinces, both close to the Chinese border. The crossing is not random. It is planned, sometimes over months, sometimes over years, through networks of brokers who know the guards' rotations, the price of a bribe, the hour when the spotlight sweeps away from the water. In 2016, Kim Kang-woo crossed. The details of how he crossed, which section of the river, which broker, which night belonged to him and to the safety of those still inside. What is confirmed is that he made it to China. He stepped off the ice of the Yalu River and into a country that would not protect him, but would not immediately shoot him either. That was enough. In China, North Korean defectors exist in a legal gray zone that is really not gray at all. Under a bilateral agreement between Beijing and Pyongyang that has been in place for decades, China classifies North Korean border crossers not as refugees, but as illegal economic migrants. They are subject to arrest and forcible repatriation. To be caught in China means being sent back to a North Korea that knows you tried to leave. And that is a very different North Korea than the one you escaped. Kim Kang-woo hid. He worked. He sent money back. The underground economy that serves North Korean defectors in China, the brokers, the safe house networks, the informal money transfer systems that allow earnings in China to reach families inside the DRK, became the infrastructure of his life. Before he left, he had made his mother a promise. He would earn enough to pay for her escape. He would get her out. He did not know yet how hard that promise would be to keep.
The broker system is the nervous system of North Korean defection. Brokers, sometimes ethnic Koreans living in China, sometimes networks of contacts stretching from the Yalu River to Bangkok to Seoul, coordinate the movement of people out of North Korea. They know which guards are bribable. They know the price of a forged document in Shenyang. They know which route through Laos is currently passable. They are not charities. They charge significant sums, by some accounts several $1,000s per person, and they operate in the dark, exposed to legal risk on multiple sides of the border. Kim Kang-woo hired brokers to arrange his mother's escape. He paid what was asked. Then the brokers reported they could not do it. The situation on the ground had changed. The border had tightened. The guards had changed. The price went up, or the window closed, or the contact went silent. These are not unusual outcomes. They are, for families separated by the Yalu River, the ordinary texture of hope deferred. Under Kim Jong-un, who assumed power in 2011, border security has intensified significantly compared to the years of his father's rule. Shoot-on-sight orders became more consistently enforced. Electronic surveillance increased. The COVID-19 pandemic, beginning in 2020, led to a near-total sealing of the border with a military cordon that turned what was already one of the world's most dangerous crossings into something barely crossable at all. By 2021, the number of North Koreans reaching South Korea had fallen to fewer than 100 per year, compared to thousands in the years before. In 2016 and the years that followed, the tightening was already underway. What Kim Kang-woo discovered, waiting in China with money he had earned and a promise he was unable to fulfill through the normal channels, was that the system had stopped working. His mother was still inside. He sat with this knowledge for what must have been a very long time, and then he made a decision that the brokers, the defector networks, and the logic of self-preservation all argued against. He would go back himself. He wore a black hoodie. He concealed a knife. He stood on the Chinese side of the Yalu River among merchants, the ordinary commerce of the border zone, goods moving back and forth in the way that economics always finds a way around political barriers. And he waited. He watched the North Korean soldiers on the far bank. He learned the rhythm of their attention, and when the moment came, he crossed back in. The Washington Post reported this in October 2022 in what Kim Kang-woo confirmed was his first interview with any news outlet. These are his confirmed facts. The knife was for protection against the river and against whatever came after it. The black hoodie was to disappear into the dark. The merchants on the Chinese side were his cover, his camouflage, his proof that a man standing at a river can be ordinary if he stands there long enough. What happened once he was back inside North Korea, how he reached his mother, how he moved through the country without triggering the security apparatus, how a man whose face the state had reason to flag managed to travel to wherever she was and contact her, these details Kim Kang-woo has not made fully public. That restraint is both understandable and important. Others helped him. Those people are still inside. Their safety depends on silence about specifics. What we know is the structure of what he did. He crossed back in, he found her, and he began the work of getting her out. The North Korean state is formidable, but it is not omniscient. It runs on informants, on collective surveillance, on the social architecture of a country where every neighborhood unit reports on its members. It is powerful because most people, most of the time, have no reason to resist it and every reason to comply with it. A man who knows how it works, who grew up inside it, who understands its rhythms and its gaps, can sometimes move through it. Kim Kang-woo moved through it. The route out of North Korea that most defectors take does not go south. South is the DMZ, the most heavily fortified land border in the world, 3 kilometers wide, laced with landmines, infrared sensors, and soldiers on both sides who have standing orders to treat unauthorized crossings as hostile acts. Almost no one successfully crosses the DMZ. It is effectively a wall. The route goes north, across the Yalu or Tumen River into China, then typically south and west through China by ground, hiding, moving at night, relying on the broker network and whatever human kindness presents itself, across the border into Southeast Asia, into Laos or Vietnam or Myanmar, and eventually into Thailand, where the UN High Commissioner for Refugees has a presence, and where North Koreans, in theory, can claim protection and be transferred to South Korea. The journey takes months. It costs money that most defectors do not have. It exposes them at every stage to the possibility of arrest and repatriation. The women among them are at particular risk. Human trafficking is endemic along the route, and North Korean women, stateless and undocumented, are extremely vulnerable. The men are at a risk of a different kind, visible, monitored, subject to spot checks that a South Korean residence card or a Chinese identity document would answer and a North Korean accent would betray. Kim Kang-woo had already made this journey once. Now he made it again, and this time he was not alone. His mother was with him. They crossed the river, they moved through China, they survived what that route demands, the checkpoints, the hiding, the reliance on people who might or might not be trustworthy, the hours in vehicles and safe houses and silences. The Washington Post reported that both Kim Kang-woo and his mother reached South Korea. They were together. The promise he had made when he first crossed in 2016, "I will come back for you, I will get you out," had been kept, at costs and through methods that no one who has stood at that river in the dark can fully imagine. They arrived in South Korea. They went through Hanwon, the resettlement center south of Seoul, where all new North Korean arrivals spend approximately 3 months learning the currency, the transportation system, the social codes of a country that speaks the same language and shares almost no cultural assumptions about how a free life is lived. And then they were in Seoul, together.